The theory of planned behaviour is a classic theory in the world of psychology. It's been utilised and debated over since the early 1990s. And in today's episode of GetPsyched, we're going to give a brief overview of the theory of planned behaviour. We're going to look at its functionality, at its criticisms, and at its origin. And we're going to look at the components that make it up. Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of GetPsyched, where today we're going to be doing a little bit of social psychology and we're going to be looking at the theory of planned behaviour. So what is the theory of planned behaviour? Well, it's a theory that attempts to connect how our beliefs attribute to our actions and our behaviour. Developed in the early 1990s, the theory of planned behaviour is an extension from the theory of reasoned action. It's an extension because it now incorporates the theory of perceived behavioural control, which we'll come to a little bit later in the video. The theory of planned behaviour is incorporated in a lot of things going on in our world. It's utilised in advertising, in social psychology, and even in politics. It's been utilised by dentists and dentistry programs to impact and understand people's flossing habits. It's also been utilised by charity workers to improve rule abiding in homelessness centres. The theory of planned behaviour comes under 4 sections: attitudes, perceived behavioural control, subjective norms, and behavioural intention. Now, behavioural intention is basically a person's readiness to actually perform the behaviour, and this is argued to be the direct antithesis of the person actually performing the behaviour. Attitude is pretty self-explanatory. It's basically the attitude toward the behaviour that we're going to perform. Overall, it means how do we view what we're going to do. It's easy to understand that if our attitude towards a product, for example, improves, then we're likely to purchase that product. Now, a classic example of this is fast food restaurants when they've started implementing more healthy foods in an attempt to improve the attitudes of people towards their products. Therefore, the consumer won't view the company in such a bad light and therefore is more likely to buy more food from them. In general terms, the more positive the attitude towards something, the more likely you're going to act on it. However, attitudes alone are really not enough to predict our behaviours. Subjective norms is to do with the pressure we face from society or close relatives and loved ones to perform the behaviour or to not perform the behaviour. If society views the behaviour that person wants to act on as bad, then they're less likely to perform that behaviour. Likewise, if society or a loved one approves of the behaviour that person wants to act on, then they're more likely to act on it. It's interesting to note that subjective norms are actually deemed as one of the weaker components of theory of planned behaviour in predicting our behaviours. So our perception of what society and our loved ones view of what we do has a much lower influence than things like attitudes and perceived behavioural control, which we'll come to. Now, perceived behavioural control is a component that was added to the theory of reasoned action to create the theory of planned behaviour. Perceived behavioural control is to do with the understanding or the ability that person has in actually conducting that behaviour. For example, if you believe that an extra hour of studying a day will help improve your exam results, then you're more likely to act on that behaviour, i.e. meaning you can become more confident that you're going to do well in your tests. The theory of planned behaviour is something that's constantly under debate and scrutiny in the world of social psychology. For example, it's been criticised a lot for being focused too much on reasoned action and doesn't pay enough attention to unconscious controls. And in today's world of psychology, we know just how much our unconscious mind can affect our behaviours and our decision making. Regardless, the theory of planned behaviour still impacts our understanding on our behavioural patterns as individuals and as a society. Whether you agree with the theory or not is a conclusion that you'll have to draw for yourself. Guys, thanks so much again for watching GetPsyched. Today we've been looking at theory of planned behaviour and social psychology. Make sure to connect with me on Twitter, on Instagram and on LinkedIn, and to view my website frasersmithcounselingsci.com, and we'll catch you soon.